Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the BetRivers Network. It's still March, but you can say that it is a special day, a holy day, if you're a big sports fan, because it is opening day, and I don't care where you are or what you're doing. If you're a sports fan, and if you're a real sports fan, you're a baseball fan. Uh, Opening day conjures up just good feelings. It always did. I used to love when I was a kid and I heard when I was getting ready for school and it was cold as heck, and I heard the spring training scores on WNEWAM, which my mom listened to while we were getting ready for school. And Chip Sapola did the sports, and he'd say, in the Grapefruit League, and I'd be like, baseball is right around the corner. And now today it's here. Tonight, unfortunately, on Netflix, but that's the greed of sports. It's as greedy as can possibly be. It's big business now. But there's a lot going on. There's optimism for the Mets, optimism for the Yankees, as always. And we get a chance to chat about the Mets with one of the real staples of broadcasting in New York and obviously of the Mets. And that's, of course, Ron Darling, who is beginning his 21st year with Keith and Gary in the best booth in baseball. Not even close. And 21 years. Listen, my dog and I did 20 years together. If you did 21 years with guys, you're doing good, very well. And Ronnie joins us now. Ron, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's been a long time since we talked. And the only difference is that the baseball game's 3 hours. You took on dog for 6-7 hours a day.
Yeah. It seemed like it was 5.5, but it seemed like 6 or 7 a lot of days. That's for sure. It's funny. 21 years, a 3-man booth is a interesting dynamic. You guys came in it from different places. I can say now that I know that the Wilpons were tentative about putting Keith in the booth. Gary was reluctant to go from radio, where he was brilliant. I thought he was number 2 to Vin Scully. Nobody was going to beat Vin Scully, but he was brilliant. And you guys have had nothing but, unbridled success. And now 21 years in the booth together. That's quite an accomplishment.
Well, I think we all started from the same place because Gary was so great on radio but hadn't done TV. Keith had dipped his toes in but didn't do a lot of games. He just did it to stay active. And I had very, very little experience. So we kind of had for lack of a better phrase, we kind of had to hold hands together and take the leap and trust each other. And I think over 20 years, we trust each other. We know that in the course of a game, when it gets tough, we're gonna figure out how to get it done. I trust Gary to do it. Gary trusts me, and of course, we trust Keith.
Well, it's first of all, you're all good at what you do, and that's part of having a good booth. You got to have talent in the booth. But the interesting thing is 2 things. One, you cover pitching and offense, and Keith covers the defense and the pitch and the hitting, and you cover the pitching, which is an interesting dynamic. And then just getting the flow of a 3-man booth, it takes a while. How long in your mind did it take for it to be really clicking?
It's funny. It happened very quickly. Before we did the first game, the national anthem was playing, and as a broadcaster, things aren't always quiet in the booth during the national anthem. They should be, but they're not always quiet. And I remember Keith said right before we came on air, he said, "Remember, I do the hitting and you do the pitching." So really right there, he separated what we had to do in the booth. And so I think initially we started with him just handling all the hitting. I handled all the pitching. Gary did the other stuff. He was kind of the rudder. So it eliminated a lot of that extra discussion in the booth. Now we've become so comfortable that even when we talk over each other, it becomes a shtick. It becomes a funny thing. So I don't know. It's just at some point, Mike, I work with 2 guys that I consider like my older brothers, and I watch baseball, and every 2 weeks someone sends a check. I don't know. It's maybe not the best job in the world, but it's the top 5.
No, it's close, and, when you get a job where you don't feel like you're really working, that's what I've preached to my kids. I said, "Listen, guys, I don't feel like I ever had a job." So, for all these years, I said, "I don't wanna tell anybody that," but because I was a nasty negotiator, but I said, "Hey, I don't ever feel like I really had a job, and if you could find something to do in life that way, you're blessed, and you're double blessed," and, now we get going and it's interesting. The Yankees are rinse and repeat. They're gonna be good, we know that, the division's very tough, alright? The Mets are fascinating because I give Stearns credit. He stuck to his guns, a lot of it unpopular. He got rid of very popular players. He had an idea. The team was bad last year, and he was a big reason why it was bad because he did a terrible job with the pitching. I mean, the last 50 games, they never had a guy who could go 5 innings. I mean, it was just hideous. But he has a vision. Cohen has clearly let him complete that vision, and I think he's put together an interesting team. The Yankee Met numbers are exactly the same, 90.5 behind the Dodgers at 102. Nobody's above them. It's 102.5 to 90.5 in terms of how many wins they think they're gonna get. There's 3 teams at 90.5. The third is Seattle. Um, and there's high expectations for the Mets despite all the changes. When you take the big picture at this team, Ronnie, what do you see, and what do you like? What do you not like about what they've put together?
Well, first, you address the Yankees, and you're so right. The Yankees are just so good each and every year. They figure it out, even if they might be short in an area, and they end up at between 92 and 100 wins every year. They just are that kind of organization, that kind of brilliance under Cashman and Boone and everyone else in that organization. There's a lot of talented people. As far as the Mets are concerned, I thought it was interesting. It takes a lot of guts to get rid of
Yes.
popular players.
Yes.
Alonso is a very popular player. Nimmo was his equal. And I think at some point, David Stearns had the guts to say, listen, every team is trying to chase the Dodgers, right, Mike? So, and the Mets even voiced that they want to be the Dodgers at some point. Well, there never has been an easier time to get in the postseason. And since Pete Alonso came to the major leagues, the Mets played in 16 postseason games at a 8-8 record, and the Los Angeles Dodgers played in 79. So it tells you how far the gap is of excellence. Yep. And I think what David Stern says is like, listen, Alonso's a good player. Nimmo's a good player. McNeil is a good player. But they are not the right players to take the next jump. That's how he felt. And he changed the team. And I haven't seen a GM be that brave in a long time because, you know, the Mets fan base can get a little ornery when you take away their homegrown players. But David felt like it needed to be done, David Stearns. And I happen to agree with him now. I really like this team.
Interesting team in that he clearly wanted to improve the defense. He wanted to improve their ability to build runs. I think Bichette's a hit machine. I think he's going to get 200 hits. I like him a lot. I thought Polanco was a very clutch player when I saw him. I don't know if he can play first base. I gather he's never played an inning at first base in the majors. We know how good the second baseman is. He's a gamer. He's very good defensively. The center field is good defensively. He's had a weird career. He could be good. He could not hit. We don't know. They took some chances, and then they put a kid in right field. All right, a kid, a top prospect. Now, I went to one spring training game, Mets at the Nationals. The Nationals are about 4 minutes from my house in Florida. I went over one day. He wasn't there. Beatty hit a home run to the opposite field in the first inning. Benj wasn't there. I didn't see him in person. First of all, let's start with him. What are your expectations from what you've seen? Forget what he hit in spring training because you know that means absolutely nothing. What do you see from him? It sounds like he's a guy who sprays the ball, makes contact. It seems like he's a professional hitter with maybe a little power. What do you expect from Benj? What have you seen from Benj?
Well, I saw him play a lot, I love what I see in him. He reminds me a little bit, maybe not as much power, of kind of a young Cody Bellinger. That kind of
Okay.
player, a guy who's a really good defensive player, great arm, great instincts for the game. Remember, he was a two-way player at Oklahoma State, so he's got a
Right.
brilliant arm.
Right.
I think the comp for me is Jackson Merrill. For your people who maybe don't watch the Padres, he won the Rookie of the Year with the Padres, center fielder who came from shortstop. He seems like a comp for me with Benj, but he's a young player, and it's a hard time with all the information that they have in the game. They can kind of figure out your weaknesses quick. But you're right, Mike. You made a good point. He's different than a lot of in his generation. He wants to put the ball in play. He hates to strike out, and I think it's part of what you were talking about with Stearns. He's trying to manufacture runs. He's trying to produce runs by guys putting the ball in play. Bo Bichette, to me, reminds me not as good, and I hope he doesn't take this as a slight, of Paul Molitor when I played.
Oh, that's a high compliment.
I mean, that's
a high compliment.
It's a high compliment. I don't think he's at that level, but he could be at some point. But Molitor, I used to always kid that he had a slump-proof swing.
I think that's a great comparison. I never thought of that, but I think that's a great. I think this guy, if he is healthy, and I know he's not a great fielder, he'll play the position okay. But I think this is a guy that if he's healthy, he's going to be 20. He's going to be 35 doubles, 10 triples, 25 homers, and 200 hits.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. And I think as far as the run prevention is concerned, the best way to prevent runs is to have good pitching, and good pitching that doesn't allow the ball in play. So all of it, right off the bat, because of the trade for Peralta and the addition of Nolan McLean for the entire season, knock on wood, you're talking about two guys that are going to average about 10 strikeouts per game. The ball is going to be put in play less. The ball put in play less is always fielded better. So better pitchers are the start to run prevention, and then the defense comes after that.
How much, how long a leash does see? I think it's important that they play Vientos every day. I think if they pull him in and out of the lineup, I think he's going to struggle. I think he has high expectations for himself. Last year, he was down on himself since the first week. But if you look he still had some moments. The guy has terrific power. 2 years ago in the playoffs, he was sensational and he hit good pitching, and he hit some big home runs. I like I know they want to find a place for Beatty, who they think is a player now. And maybe he's a jack of all trades for them, and he plays when guys are hurt in certain spots. But I wish they would give Vientos a chance to be the everyday DH. I know he's a DH. He's not a fielder. But I don't know what their feeling is about him, and I don't think they're going to have a long leash with him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think they're having a long leash with him, and it's a shame, really. I'm a fan of his as well, Mike. And I think when I look at him as a player, he just needs a little love. You know what I mean? He needs a hug and a position, and let him play,
right?
And see.
And to know he's going to play tomorrow, and to know that he's in the lineup no matter what.
Yeah, and let him see what he can do. You can always go back to Beatty if you think he's a player, and let him take over if Vientos doesn't make it. But the upside with the bat between Vientos and Beatty, I don't think there's any comparison in my estimation.
I agree.
But you don't know unless you play Vientos. I don't think Polanco is going to play much defense at all, Mike. He's going to be the DH. So Vientos and Beatty will split at first base. Who gets the most time probably is who hits the best.
Okay, so you think Polanco will wind up being the DH, and the other guys will have to go to first base to play. Okay. All right. Now, Ronnie, I don't like the closer. I didn't like him with the Yankees. I don't like his attitude. He's a sour guy. He's not a good clubhouse guy. He was terrible on the Yankees last year. He had a terrible attitude. I know he's got an all-world changeup. I know he's had great moments until the Pete home run. Are you confident? Now, they wanted Diaz back. They screwed it up. We know that. Are you confident that he can be a big-time closer for this team?
I'm not as confident as I would be if they had Diaz back there, Mike. Certainly, Diaz is one of the best in the game, and he's not perfect. There's only been one perfect. There's only been one perfect closer in the history of the game, and we don't even have to mention his name. There's only been one.
Right.
So everyone else hates their closer. That's just how baseball is. They love him until he goes through that stretch, which all closers do. I think Williams is talented. He's had a great deal of success. I think Weaver, who they got from the Yankees, is talented. He's had some success as well. I think it's going to have to be a bullpen by committee. I don't think it's going to be just one guy all the time. I think their strength is going to come in numbers. It's not going to come in just one or two guys who rule the roost. And, bullpens are so fungible. I mean, one year you have the best bullpen in the game's ever seen, and the next year they can't get anybody out. You just don't know because the guys that are in the bullpen, one year they throw 75 games, they get everybody out. The next year, because of those 75 games, they can't get anybody out. So you're just hoping your bullpen by committee, I think, for the Mets will be their strength. The best way for the Mets bullpen to have success is that McLean and Peralta and
go
Peterson
6 innings,
and others go 6 innings plus.
Yep. No, and the starting pitching obviously improved. It was terrible last year. Let me start at the back. Let me start with Senga. Have they run out of patience with Senga now?
I think you talked about a short leash for Vientos. I think Senga has a short leash as well. We know what he did in his rookie season, his final rookie season. Not hard to call it a rookie season. As good a first season for a pitcher from Japan has ever had.
Are his problems more mental or physical, Ronnie?
I think he's one of those players, Mike. You grew up in a time where players really felt 80% of them on the field was better than 100% of the guy behind them. If you could get on the field, you gave him the best shot. Senga's more of an everyday, a more modern day player, and that is they really don't want to be on the field all the time unless they're 100%. There's a different way of thinking. And I think some organizations also feel as though they don't want their players out there unless they're 100%. Just the total change from 20, 30, 40 years ago. But Senga, I think, has been in the group where he doesn't feel like he can be his best unless he feels 100%. The only time you feel 100% in baseball, Mike, is tomorrow or tonight with the Yankees in Seattle, in San Francisco. That's the only time you feel 100%. After that, you're dealing with bumps and bruises and nicks and pains, and I don't feel so great this morning. That's just the nature of the sport because uniquely, and what makes baseball great, is that we play every day. So I think he's going to have to show some toughness, and I think he's going to have to show some durability to stay in that rotation.
We're opening day, Yankees tonight against the Giants, Mets tomorrow against the best pitcher in baseball and Skeens. Skeens and Peralta. Peralta he'll be good for the Mets. He's a pro. McLean obviously has a world of talent. I know that everyone goes gaga over the spin rate. He has the great curveball. When a guy's this young, Ron, and his curveball is his out pitch, what does he have to be careful with versus the guy who is going to blow you away with the heat?
That's a great question. I think what happens when you're young and you have a weapon, sometimes your immaturity or inexperience makes you overuse that weapon. What does that mean? Is that he has a lot of other great pitches. His fastball has great sink. He's got a cutter that's great. I think the use of his fastball to keep his great spin and great breaking ball on the sidelines until he needs it will be his strength for his entire career. Just because he has it, he doesn't have to show it because he has all the other gifts. The best player I played with who had the best spin as a young pitcher was David Cohn. When he first came to the Mets, we were all throwing curveballs, and then he spun his slider, slurve. And they were like, where did that come from? And I remember what made Coney great, and he was great. is that he used his fastball. He used his split finger. He went after hitters. And I think that if Nolan has that kind of attitude, because I think he has the insides that Cone has. If he has that kind of attitude, I think he's going to go a long way.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next is his makeup, because to me, the most important thing about these young guys and what's going to make them real and make them a top pitcher is their makeup and what's inside them. I remember as a kid, Ron, Seaver comes up. The Mets are a joke. They're a laughing stock. It's 1967. He comes up, and all of a sudden, he doesn't think anything's funny, and he goes to the mound and expects to win every time he goes to the mound and wins 16 games with a team that finishes in ninth place and loses a ton of games. Well, the next year, they win the World Series, okay? I mean, in 68. So in 69, they come in and win the World Series. They win 100 games. Seaver was no nonsense from the first minute. He expected to win. He went to the mound with command. When the Skeens you can see his makeup is enormous. I mean, you can see he expects to dominate when he goes to the mound. What's McLean's makeup?
Yeah, Skeens' makeup is palpable, isn't it? You can see it. You can feel it. I went to the WBC final game, Venezuela against the U.S. McLean started that game. I had a good seat. And I really watched him. Here's a young guy on his first big stage, playing with all these great players behind him. And his body language was through the roof. It was like looking at a 30-year-old pitcher who had already started 150, 100, 200 games in the major leagues. I was very impressed. I was also impressed last year. There's a real serious to him. You don't see a lot of giggles. It reminds me a little of Garrett Cole.
Right.
There's a lot of seriousness to the craft. And the other thing, which I think might separate him, is that if you see him in the locker room, he's built like a third baseman. I mean, he's not built like a pitcher. He's a former two-way player at Oklahoma
He's
State.
an athlete. Yeah, he's an athlete.
He is a big-time athlete. And I think that goes a long way with all pitchers, whether it's Max Fried. Max Fried. I think it's just important. He's just he's a no-nonsense kind of after, I don't know, and this is going to sound like a criticism, but it's not. But, the last wave of Mets pitchers, you had the Batman, you had the Thor, you had the Superman, and the guy that was the best is the guy who said nothing. He just came to the ballpark and got the job done, and Jacob deGrom.
Let's be honest, they were clowns. Let's be honest. I mean, they had great talent, but they were clowns.
Great talent. With McLean, I see a lot of deGrom. Just simple, give me the ball, let me work hard, a seriousness to his craft.
You trust Peterson?
I trust Peterson. Oh, absolutely. I think, sometimes you use as an excuse a pitcher not having a good second half. But that's the first time in his entire career after hip surgery that he had taken the ball that many times and gone that many innings. So I think a lot of people always talk about the physical wearing down of a pitcher who hasn't gone to that innings mark. It's mental too, Mike. What happens over the course of the year is that when you haven't been to the well 35 times in a season, at around 27, you're like, oh my goodness, we've got these many games left. You get a little worn down, and if you're not on top of your game mentally, then you're going to be compromised. So I think putting together a mentally and physical year for him this year, Peterson's going to be fine.
There's high expectations for the Mets, Ron. We're talking, of course, with Ron Darling, who one of the rare things in baseball history to do, Ron did. Start 3 World Series games for your team in 1 year. There's not a lot of guys who have done that in baseball history. You think about rarities that pitchers do. Guys starting 3 World Series games in the same season. First of all, you got to be good in the first 2, otherwise you're not pitching the third game.
Right.
We know that.
That's right.
And getting a chance to start a series going 7 games to start 3 games, that is a rarity. There's not that many guys who've done that in baseball history.
Well, and 3 times in 11 days. So, that's something that I'm very proud of. And you're right. There's not many that did it in the past, and no one's doing it in the future.
No, nobody does it anymore. So now that's a day gone by. There's absolutely no question. But there's a lot of pressure. Let's be honest. There's a lot of pressure on Stearns. He pushed his chips into the middle of the table. He said nothing, and he said to the Mets, "Let me do this." He said to the Met fans, "Let me do this. Just be quiet. Let me do this. I don't care about your favorite players. Let me do this. I don't want your input." He doesn't want anybody's input. I respect that. He's pushed his chips into the middle of the table. I know where he is. I know he's got pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his dream job. So when you have your dream job, he was a Mets fan as a kid. You prepared for this. Now, that being said, I feel like this year, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like this year is the first year that this is a Stearns team. I think in the past, the owner, because he just refuses to lose, has stepped in a couple of times when he felt like he needed to. And I think this is the first time that he said, "Hey, listen, I have other things on my plate. I hired you because you're the best at what you do. Go do it." And like I said, I still commend him. It's very brave what he did to change his team.
This is how he wants to play baseball. He wants to play baseball this way. He wants guys who catch the ball. He wants to play tight games. He wants to have guys who are going to make contact like the Blue Jays late in close games. Yeah. He built the team the way he sees baseball, which is fine. That's what you brought him in to do. You brought him in to do this. Let him do it. Now, 100%. Also on top of that, there's a lot of pressure on the manager. How important is a fast start, and how much is the manager cognizant of needing a fast start?
Mike, I'm such a Mendoza fan that I hope he doesn't have to have a quick start. I didn't know much about Carlos Mendoza until I talked to Aaron Boone about him, talked to people in the Yankees organization. I've never had anyone sold to me as a baseball man and a great human being as Carlos Mendoza from everyone. I didn't hear one bad thing about him. And that's very rare in today's game. And it says a lot about what Carlos has been his entire baseball career. He's a lifer. He's waited for this moment. You can't give him all the plaudits in 2024 and just immediately think he doesn't know how to do the job after 1 year last year. He certainly knows how to manage a team. I think that the complete changeover and the coaches under him was a big move, as well as the players for David Stearns. That's something that's not talked about as much. I hope he doesn't have to get off to a quick start, but boy, it would really help.
Ron, the other thing is the Mets have great resources. We know that. And this year, with baseball Armageddon right around the corner, with the very specter of baseball Armageddon, bad teams may be looking to unload star contracts because they know there's going to be a work stoppage, which is, there's a very good chance we know that happens. Will that make more players available this year to the good teams down the stretch?
I think it'll make definitely more players available. If you want to take it all the way to Armageddon, teams won't have to pay their players if the players strike in 2027. So maybe they'll think they could hold on to their players because they won't have to pay their best players $35 million in a season. But I think that there are going to be some organizations that are going to say, if this Armageddon is coming, we're going to reboot and retool anyway. So let's get rid of our star players and start all over. So I think you're going to have to be cognizant of that. You hope that you're a good enough team that you don't need too many pieces, but every team needs a piece here and there. And you're right. The Mets are in a place that's better than most to maybe make that move.
All right. We're talking, of course, with Ron Darling. You're a national broadcaster. You do national games. You do the postseason. Is it the Dodgers again, or do you see somebody else getting there this year?
Well, the only reason I don't kind of hand it to the Dodgers every year is because the baseball tournament, and that's really what it is now, the baseball tournament has produced some unlikely heroes.
It's very unpredictable. The postseason's very unpredictable.
Very unpredictable. The 19 Nationals went all the way. The 21 Braves went all the way. The 23 Rangers, all the way. The Yankees were taken to a fifth game by the Guardians the one year, and it could have went either way.
Hey, the Yanks are there every year. Look how long it's been since they've won a World Series. I mean, they haven't won a World Series since 2009.
And it's tougher now than ever to do it. Maybe that's why it's so rewarding when the team does get through. The Dodgers just have a unique talent. They have a hitter who's one of the best hitters in the game that leads off of them that could win the Cy Young this year. I mean,
I never thought we'd see a player like him. I mean, I have to admit, and I know the pitching's a little overrated because he doesn't pitch all that much. But boy, he is an incredible player. There's no question about it.
Mike, the last game I did, national broadcast last year, was the game he struck out 10 in 6 innings and hit 3 home runs.
Yes, that's
the second home run. Yeah. The second home run, Mike, that he hit out at Dodger Stadium. I don't know how many games I've done in the postseason, many hundreds. That's the first time I've ever heard a ball make a sound like that. And I'm sure when Mantle and guys in the past that hit it, it sounded like it came out of a cannon. I've never, if I were pitching and threw that pitch, I would have ducked. I mean, that's how loud. That's how loud it was, and he's just quite a player.
What do you expect from the Mets?
I expect the Mets to be really good. I really do, and you know me, I don't say that lightly. I'm not a Mets apologist. I don't say they're good when they're not good. I just think that their lineup is a totally different lineup that's going to produce runs. I think Peralta and McClain at the top of the rotation changes that from what you saw at the end of the year. The bullpen, to me, is the one if. And if they're not as good or they're not as solid as they should be, nothing destroys a team more than a bullpen that gives away games. And they're going to have to be good.
And let me ask you this. How appalled is Keith going to be by the first base defense he sees from the Mets this year? Because we don't even know who's going to play over there. And whoever it is, whether it's Polanco, Beatty, Vientos, who knows, they're not going to be that good. So he's going to be absolutely appalled by the first base defense.
Yeah. Keith doesn't suffer fools gladly, It's just that, it's funny sometimes when he has to describe very routine plays. It's hard for him to do it, because those things were such second nature to him. He'll say things in between innings. He'll say, I learned that play when I was 7 years old from my dad, because, he was just a prodigy as far as the defense was concerned. And I think he should be a Hall of Fame player. I hope someday he goes in. When you're a teammate of a guy that goes in the Hall of Fame, it makes you feel better about yourself. But also, I just think he was a transformative player in the way baseball was played in the 80s.
No, revolutionized the position. I don't think there's any question. And nobody ever even approached playing the bunt like he did. Not even approached it. Mattingly was a great first baseman. I've seen other guys. Joe Pepitone was a great first baseman. I've seen plenty of great first basemen, but none of them could do what Keith would do as far as being aggressive, having range, and playing the bunt more aggressively than anybody I had ever seen by a mile. And you know what amazes me, Ron? And it just shows you something about the modern player and the separation. I saw somewhere, and I don't know if it's true, you would know, they've never come to Keith and asked him to tutor anybody at first base. How could you have the greatest defensive player at that position in the history of the sport and not pick his brain or let him teach somebody in spring training how to play first base?
Well, maybe they feel it's like asking Yo-Yo Ma to teach me the cello. Just no chance. It just can't happen. This is what I hope. Before I pass, I hope that Mattingly and Hernandez go in the same year and go into Cooperstown, and that will be the most raucous, fun weekend that Cooperstown will ever see.
I agree. They're both incredibly popular. And I'll tell you, Mattingly, It's amazing. His popularity is it's almost Mantle-like.
Yeah.
He's more popular than Jeter. I mean, it's amazing how popular Mattingly is, even to this day, incredibly popular. Listen, I know you got to run.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. Enjoy the season. We'll be watching. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mike. Here anytime you need me. Thanks.
Thank you, Ron. Ron Darling, who you'll see with obviously in the best baseball booth in the business. Now, again, things are different now where you're on Netflix one day and you're on this streamer the next day and this streamer the next day. But, check your local listings, and that's still the best booth there is in all of baseball. We'll see you later.